I'm McKinney Smith. After going through a divorce, my sister passing away, experiencing narcissistic abuse, and some significant health scares, I realized through sharing my story that I wasn't alone in my suffering. Suffering, subjective distress generated by the experience of being out of balance. In a deep dive to holistically heal mind, body, and soul is where I discovered peace, clarity, and connection. It is impossible to be truly wise without some real life hardship, and we cannot develop post-traumatic wisdom without making it through, and most importantly, through it together. Social connection builds resilience, and resilience helps create post-traumatic wisdom, and that wisdom leads to hope. Hope for you and others witnessing and participating in your healing, and hope for your community. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope because it has seen its own people weather, survive, and thrive. Before we get started, here's a reminder. Mindset work requires action. In the book that I co-wrote with my co-author, Suzanne Mihailovich, the Renewing Your Mind workbook is filled with practical exercises, prompts, and strategies to help you break free from limiting beliefs. It's your personal guide to mental and emotional transformation. So if you're ready to do the work, grab your copy today at McKinneySmith.com, or it's available on Amazon. Today's guest is Althea Mitchell. She's the founder of LeadHers Club, an organization driven by her mission to empower new and aspiring women leaders to step into their power and transform the world. A multifaceted leader, Althea is a lawyer, author, spiritual guide, board member, and mother. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology from York University, a Bachelor of Law, and a Master's of Law. Through her work, she is dedicated to inspiring women to embrace leadership roles, confidently claim their space, and boldly create better lives for themselves and their community. So please welcome to the show, Althea Mitchell.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for agreeing to come on and share your story and your wisdom with us. All of the women and the people that I've invited on the podcast, I know everyone is busy. I know everyone's making an impact. I know everyone is, wearing multiple hats. So I do not take your time lightly. I truly, truly do appreciate you taking the time. You could be doing anything in the world right now, but you have chosen to be here and to co-create this experience and to share with the listeners. So thank you.
You are absolutely welcome.
So before we dive into your journey, your story, your healing, all of the gems that you have to share, I love to start the show with an icebreaker question.
Mm-hmm.
And, I believe like as kids, we have these vivid imaginations of who we want to be or what we want to be when we grow up. And society, culture, sometimes our family unintentionally start to limit us. And we pivot from that vision that we had for our lives. So I would love to know, who and what did you want to be when you were a little girl?
Wow. When I was a little girl, this is a question I get asked so often. When I was a little girl, I always wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
And that came about because I had a classmate, and we were so close, this little boy. We were very, very close. He was my best friend. And he was coming to school one morning and he got hit by a car. And I was in class waiting for him, and I looked through the window, saw this crowd outside, and was just, wondering what's happening. So I noticed he didn't come into the classroom, and then we were told that while he was crossing the street to get to school, he got hit by a car, and the driver didn't stop.
Oh,
And I was
wow.
I was furious. My God, I had lost my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at his funeral, um, his mother, there was something, and I believe his mother stated that she was a lawyer, and there was this anger in me and this thought that, oh my God, I'm going to become a lawyer just like his mother, and I'm going to find the person who killed him.
Mm.
And I was just on a mission, as young as I was, to to know that I'm gonna grow up and I'm gonna find this person who took away my best friend from me, and I was gonna get justice for my friend. So that's where that desire came from. So I started going to the library and reading books about becoming a lawyer, and that's where it all started.
Wow, wow. I mean, first of
Yeah.
all, I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry you lost your childhood friend.
Yes.
Sorry you even had to deal with that so young. Um, I have so many questions because now I'm like, I love when someone, um, who and what they wanted to be as a child is either who they became or is related to who they became because, so often we see the opposite. So I love that you
Yeah.
actually followed through with that. And I would also, I guess, like to know, did you ever get justice and find the other person?
You know what? I didn't. It was so long ago,
Mhm,
and it would be definitely impossible. But the journey to becoming a lawyer wasn't easy.
mhm,
Even though I did achieve my childhood dream, it wasn't a straightforward journey. There were obstacles, there were challenges, there were times where I did other things. I started other businesses. I launched into real estate. I launched into the employment industry, different industries before arriving at my desired profession,
mhm,
right?
mhm,
So sometimes when we're on this journey, life will bring challenges. I ended up having three kids, and at one point, law school didn't even seem possible.
mm,
But the life comes with challenges, right? And we just have to keep going.
mhm, absolutely. Okay, so for the people that are listening,
Hmm.
give us the Coles Notes version of how you got to where you are today.
Oh gosh. I'm gonna make it short. So getting to this place of being a lawyer, and a leader in my industry, it as I said, it has been a journey. But what kept me was the perseverance and, the resilience, right? Persevering, going through every challenge that I went through, every obstacle that came into my path, with an intention in my mind, with a focus or that North Star, that at the end of the day, I'm going to become someone. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be someone who my children can look up to. So even when the dream waned a bit, where, trying to find justice for my friend, even when that vision wasn't so clear, what now became clear was that I had these three children and these three boys, and when I needed to provide for them, I needed to make sure that, I didn't end up being a statistic, right?
Mhm,
A mother who is on welfare and can't take care of her children. So that drove me to um, overcoming these obstacles and facing these challenges and setbacks that occurred in my life.
mhm,
And as I went through each challenge, the vision started to become closer, right? It started to feel possible and become that and seem as if it's going to become real.
mhm.
So I leaned on support. I leaned on people, family, as much as I could to help me get to this point. Yeah.
As as someone who wears so many hats, like you're a multifaceted leader, you're, a lawyer, author, board member, mother, wife, you wear so many hats. And if the listeners were to just go and Google you or look on your website or your social platforms, they can see that you do so many things. But what do you think
Mhm.
is one thing about you that most people don't know?
Ooh, one thing about me, I am such an introvert. I'm such an introvert.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm so introverted. I show this big personality online and everywhere, um, because I have to pump myself up for that, right?
Mhm,
So I try not to take on too much. I, I put everything in a place. Everything has its place for me.
mhm,
Last week I was speaking with a colleague of mine and I needed some help and I called her and I'm like, can you help me with this? I've never done this before. And she said to me, Althea, I mean, I wouldn't think that you would need help. You don't look that way. You seem to have it all put together. And
mhm,
honestly, um, I wear many hats, but everything has to be in order. Everything
mhm,
has a time, everything has a place. Um, I use my calendar and I make sure everything is organized. And I have two calendars and a notebook.
mhm.
Yeah. So I'm truly an introvert at heart.
I love when I see women that are living in their purpose, walking in their truth, and then they're also introverts because people don't normally believe when I say I'm an introvert. So I love like other examples to be like, look, introverts can also be successful in all these different
Yes.
areas. Like
Absolutely, absolutely. But we got to manage it, right? We got to
exactly.
manage our life.
Exactly. Exactly. Okay, so let's speak about your healing journey. Like what was
Yes.
the turning point in your life that made you realize you needed to focus on your healing journey?
Oh dear. So the turning point for me is when I realized I wasn't as self-aware as I thought I was.
Mm,
What that means is I found myself in this relationship before I married my husband and I got married. I found
mhm,
myself in this relationship, and at the beginning of the relationship, it was just so picture perfect. Right? He was the ideal person, the person that your friends love to love.
mhm, mhm,
Right? The one that seemed as if it's a perfect match. It's a match made in heaven. It's you guys can do things together and it's a power couple.
mhm,
And shortly after that, I started to experience losing myself.
mhm,
And I was going through that place where I felt as if I was losing myself, but there was something in me, like an inner guide, telling me that this relationship wasn't the right one for me.
mhm,
And I seemed to ignore that inner guide and started listening to the other voices and other persons that were speaking to me and saying, this person is your husband. He's the right one. He's the one that God has for you.
mhm,
And listening to those people who were speaking to me and not paying attention to my inner guide,
mm,
that little voice that was saying, you know what, this doesn't feel so right.
mhm,
There are signs here that, it doesn't look good. It doesn't feel good. And I ignored that. So shortly after that relationship ended, I recognized that, you know what, I wasn't aware of who I was. I
mm,
wasn't truly aware of my my strengths, my weaknesses, the person I was,
mhm,
because I let others spoke into my life and ignore my own self, my own
mhm.
inner voice. And that's when my healing journey started.
Wow. I mean, I'm sure there are many people that are listening that could completely relate to, how we ignore our intuition and we take the
Yeah.
opinions of our quote unquote loved ones
Yeah.
over when God is whispering to us. Um,
Yes.
eh, so how did that shape the way that you view your purpose today?
Um, it shaped it in a way where it made me become a better leader of myself. It's called being a self-aware leader.
Mhm.
And because of what I went through, now I can say I have stopped depending on others to make my decisions for me. I'm responsible for the outcome of my decisions.
Mhm.
Because you see, when we're listening to others and following what they're saying to us and ignoring our intuition or that inner voice, we've given someone else control over our
Mhm.
lives.
Yeah.
And we have to come to a place where we love ourselves so much that we can truly believe and follow our own intuition.
Mhm.
So it's definitely helped me to now refocus and um, be more aware of that inner voice and
Mhm.
know that I can trust myself to make the best decisions for my own life.
Yes. Yeah. We. I say that if we don't listen to God's whispers, He yells.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, yes.
um. As someone who wears so many hats, how did you find the time and the space to prioritize your own healing? Because I know that when I got serious about my healing, it required me to
Mhm.
pull away from everything. It required me to reset. It required me to isolate and, to incubate. So a lot of people around me may have taken offense to the fact that I didn't have the time or the capacity for them because I was focused on my own healing journey. So I would love to know how you were able to find the time and space to prioritize your own healing.
Just listen. You know what? We never have the time, but we have to make the time.
Mhm,
And I tell myself, in order for me to serve the people who are looking to me and who are depending on me, in order to even be a good mom and not, go under the sheets and not want to get up because you're going through this burst of, depression or being in a low place, I, I just have to make that time because I want to be the best version of myself. So
mhm,
I had to create that time, and make it happen. And part of that was cutting off the people who were speaking into my ear, not having that time that I spent listening to others in my ear was enough time for me to work on myself, to read books that could help me understand
mhm,
this narcissistic tendencies.
mhm,
There's some terms that I learned just going through my healing journey that I wasn't even aware of,
mhm,
and how to deal with um these kinds of personalities.
mhm,
um, so I had to prioritize the time for myself. Cutting off, letting go of those individuals gave me more time.
mhm, mhm,
Right. And I had to get my calendar, schedule that time in with my therapist, having those sit down conversations, shutting the phone off,
mhm,
turning everything off and saying, listen, this is time for me. I would take time out and go to the spa, sit for a little bit just to be with myself
mhm, mhm.
and to understand more about the person I was evolving into.
I think it's so important that when we become aware that
Mhm.
we, um were in unhealthy situations or, living unhealthy lifestyles, whenever we're ready to focus on our healing, it's important to even understand how we got there. It's important to
Yes.
research and educate ourselves on how we got there, how we
Yes.
accepted certain things so that we can change our behavior so that we don't continue to, connect
Yes.
with those same type of people and make those same mistakes.
Absolutely, absolutely. I even started watching more of your podcast because a lot of the guests that you had on, I noticed they were, discussing a lot about narcissism. And I'm like, okay, so this is what I was dealing with,
Mhm.
you know? So even your podcast helped a bit, a lot. Um Yeah, so just educating ourselves is
Mm.
it's very important.
Very, very important. Were there any specific challenges that you faced balancing your personal healing with your professional and your family responsibilities?
Any challenges? With with my profession, um, not as much. I haven't noticed anything. Maybe I haven't looked as deep, but I haven't noticed anything. In terms of my family life, my children they're very supportive. So if I needed time to focus on myself, they would give me time. I'm a mom who loves to be there for my kids. I love to make them dinner as
Mhm.
much. They depend on me for dinner and so forth. So if I said, I'm not in the mood today, or I have something to do, they're very supportive. And meeting my now husband, he has been my strength, my
Mhm.
support system, um, and it's just a wonderful thing. So I get a lot of support from him, encouragement. There are days when I get so upset with myself for making choosing to listen to others above myself,
Mhm.
and he will encourage me. He's an encourager.
I love
And
that.
he'll definitely encourage me to say, listen, that's the past. We're gonna put it behind us and we're gonna move forward. We acknowledge it and we move forward. So he's been my support.
I love hearing that, and I
Yeah.
love hearing, whenever someone has experienced narcissistic abuse or a toxic relationship or anything unhealthy, and they are now in a healthy relationship. I
Yeah.
love to to h especially for the listeners, I love
Yeah.
to help people to understand that even that is a process because, we still go through our emotions, we still, sometimes have triggers, but when you're now in a healthy relationship, how that can also have its challenges because they're encouraging you, they're showing you a more healthy, way to be loved, a healthier way to be supported, but then that sometimes comes with, our brains, going back to past experiences and things like
Yes.
that. Have you had to deal with any of that?
Oh yes, absolutely. As I mentioned, it happens quite often, and I acknowledge the moments when those thoughts come up, and I deal with them. I
Mhm,
tell myself that, listen, I'm forgiving you. I forgive you. I've already forgiven you,
mhm,
and my partner does that as well. So we will talk through it. We'll discuss it and just move forward. I don't tend to dwell on it. I've gotten to the point where the thoughts will come up, but I don't dwell on
mhm,
it.
mhm.
I acknowledge it, and then I move forward. And he's very supportive.
Good, I love that, I love that. What role has your faith played in helping you navigate and overcome your challenges?
Oh goodness, my
Mhm,
faith is paramount. My faith is just everything to me. And um, going through that difficult season in my life and that difficult relationship, what I realized was I had started to drift away in terms of prioritizing my meditation, prioritizing my time with God, my time in the Word.
mhm,
Um, uh, I had drifted away from that because there were just so many voices in my ear that seemed to have a more um a quicker response,
mm,
right?
mhm,
A quicker response than praying and waiting on God for to get direction in my life. Those friends and relationships just seemed as if they always had an answer.
mhm,
So so that kind of made me drift away from being focused on the word and all of that. And I know that's hard to think of, especially for me who's a pastor and a pastor's wife, knowing that I could drift away from from being in my intimate relationship with God. But
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of drifting. And because that drifted, it left a void and an empty space where I was now listening to others as opposed to focusing on my morning devotions and resetting my mind and
Mm-hmm.
having that purpose for my day. So, it just brought in a lot of negativity. Whereas when I'm in the Word and I'm studying and I'm having my relationship with God, my faith, it helps me more. It keeps me focused. It keeps me grounded,
Mm-hmm.
because the word of God gets into me, and I walk by that, and I'm reading that every morning. So obviously it's going to set the tone for my day. So
Mm-hmm.
when my faith definitely played a big part in it. Um, now I make sure that every morning I get up, I'm in my devotion, I'm in my meditation, I'm writing in my journal, and I'm setting the tone for my day.
I
I'm
love it.
taking control of how my day's gonna go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking back your power.
Yes, yes.
So, what would you say has been one of the most transformative lessons that you've learned about yourself through your healing journey?
Hmm, Let me see. The best one is just becoming more self-aware,
Mm-hmm.
understanding that if I am feeling a bit chatty, or if I'm feeling a bit weak, if I'm feeling as if I need to speak about my issues and speak about something in my life, I book a session with my therapist,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the person I go to have that 1 hour conversation with,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to going to outside sources, going to friends or even family.
Yes.
Um, so that has been a lesson for me, just becoming more self-aware of who I
I
am, of my strengths and my weaknesses as a person.
I love that you spoke about, booking that time with your therapist if you feel like you
Mhm.
need to unpack some things. And,
Yes.
our family and friends are great, our girlfriends are great, yes, but I don't believe they're always the person that we should be unpacking or venting to.
Yeah, and it's
Um,
not fair, right? It's not
yes,
fair.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in one sense, I feel like when it comes to seeking counsel, I will not
Mhm.
ask advice from people I wouldn't want to switch places with.
That's
Um,
right.
and I feel like even though our family members and friends may love us and have the best intentions,
Mhm.
they can give us bad advice. So if you're going to your therapist, which is a safe space for you to talk about your feelings and what you're going through, at least you have someone that has the tools and the wisdom to give you, um, that should be more healthy.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely agree with that.
Um, I guess thinking about how you've been transformed, what advice would you give your younger self?
Don't be so hard on yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. Um, Take your time. That list that you have with the ideal person that you're looking for, that has to be 5'9", that has to be this handsome, gorgeous looking guy. And, well-established gentleman, and well-traveled, and an avid reader, all those things, right?
Mhm.
Instead of creating that list that you want to find that ideal person from, start focusing on yourself more. Um, Become more in tune with who you are, your values, your goals, what know what you'll settle for and what you won't settle for, and know that at the end of the day, the heart of a person is what's important than their status, their social status, or their professional status. Look at the heart of the person. It's not about what they look like, the physical aspects of the person. Look at the heart. Ask questions that will reflect a person's heart, not
Mhm.
their wallet or not their social status.
Love it. That is great, great advice.
Yeah, yeah.
So, okay, looking ahead, what does the next phase of your healing journey look like?
Oh, the next phase looks like continue taking time, prioritizing time for myself. Um, lots of reading, definitely lots of reading, and just taking it one day at a time, taking it slowly.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay, so what is one piece of advice you would give to the listeners right now that are at the beginning of their own healing journey?
Acknowledge whenever the emotions come up, the negative emotions come up, acknowledge them. Don't try to sweep them under the rug and
Mhm.
pretend as if they're not there. Acknowledge it. Say, listen, I know you speak to it, right? You speak to the mountain. The
Mhm.
Bible says, speak to the mountain. You have to speak to the mountain. So if the emotions the negative emotions are the mountains in your life. Speak to it and let it know that, listen, I see you. I acknowledge you. You're there. However, you're not going to control how my day goes. You're not going to control my life. You're not going to prevent me from getting, moving forward in my healing journey. So
Amen.
acknowledge it, speak to it, and move on.
Yes. Amen to that.
Hmm.
So before we go to the final segment, the rapid fire, I would love if you could tell the listeners where they can learn more from you and about you and all the things that you're up to.
Oh, absolutely. So I can be found at altheamitchell.com on the web, altheamitchell.com, and I'm on Instagram as Althea Mitchell, ESQ. And currently I am working on um, a leadership program for those who want to learn to become a better leader over themselves, a better leader in their business, organizations, and better visionary leaders. So that's what I've been working on. And you can find all of that at altheamitchell.com.
Perfect. I will have all of your details in the detail section below the episode so they can just click and connect with you directly.
Wonderful. Mhm.
So, for the final segment of the show, it's like a rapid fire. I just ask you a couple of quick questions and you can answer
Yes.
in one word or one sentence. But if you feel the need to unpack, you're more than welcome to do so.
Sounds great.
Okay. Name a book that has changed or greatly impacted your life.
Oh, The Self-Aware Leader by John Maxwell.
Love it. Okay. Describe yourself in one word.
Go getter.
Okay. When was the last time you cried?
2023.
Really?
Sometime there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
When was the last time you apologized to someone?
Maybe 2022.
Okay. And last but not least, what do you wish women would do more of?
Just being themselves, being free, expressing themselves freely.
Love it. Althea, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Thank you for sharing your story and your wisdoms with us. I truly, truly appreciate you.
And thank you so much, Makini. It has been a pleasure. I had a great time. Thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate and value you as well.
My pleasure. Thank you, Althea, for sharing your story and your expertise with us today. I truly, truly appreciate you. To all of my healers out there, thank you for tuning in. Because of you, we rank globally in the top 1.5% of most popular podcasts. If today's episode resonated with you, please subscribe, rate the show, and leave us a review on Apple Podcast. I want you to think of anyone that you know, family, friend, coworker, that would benefit from today's conversation. Share this episode with them. Someone out there needs this testimony. Feel free to screenshot this week's episode and you can tag Althea at Althea Mitchell SQ, and you can tag myself at The Real McKinney Smith. and let's keep this conversation going. If you enjoyed today's conversation, remember that mindset transformation takes action. The Renewing Your Mind workbook is packed with practical exercises to help you change your thoughts and your life. Ready to do the work? Order your copy today on Amazon or at mckinnysmith.com. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope. So let's continue to heal her.